I love the line in that psalm, I wait for the Lord all day long. I need to listen to that more. Wait for the Lord. Let God kind of in your faith, in your trust in God, catch up to your mouth, to your brain, so that I can have a cool spirit. That's the third pillar of biblical wisdom. I received a message on Facebook that from a dear friend in another church where I've served. And she was kind of forwarding on a meme or almost a letter from another individual who had these words, and you've probably received these kinds of messages before. It went like this: I'm more than a label. I used to think I was pretty much a regular person, but I was born white into a two-parent household which now labels me as privileged, racist, and responsible for slavery. I'm a fiscal and moral conservative, which by today's standard makes me a fascist, because I plan and I budget. But I now found out that I am not here because I earned it, but because I was advantaged. I am heterosexual, which according to some folks now makes me a homophile, a homophobe. I believe the Lord did not give me a heart to judge others. I'm not a Muslim, which now labels me as an infidel. I believe in the Second Amendment, which makes me a threat to the liberals, and I get labeled as being part of a militia. I'm older than 40, making me a useless person with outdated ideas and values. I think and I reason, and I doubt much of what the mainstream media tells me, which makes me a right-wing conspiracy nut, etc., etc. You heard these comments like this before. I think the Confederate monuments around our country symbolize history, so I'm labeled as having hate in my heart when some suddenly are offended by their presence. I'm labeled a racist when thinking of erasing history will potentially cause us to repeat the problems. And it goes on. Finally, even this, I question how fear is being used to control us during COVID-19 pandemic and think the crisis is being used for political gain, so I'm labeled careless and non-sympathetic. Liberals have tried to make me feel bad about who I am based on everything above. Some want me to believe I'm a bad person. So I'm thinking of my friend and how sweet she is and how earnest and how really I'm so proud of her. And I'm thinking, oh, Carolyn, if you're feeling this way, be proud of who you are. Remember middle school? Remember what that so-called friend would come up to you, come up alongside you and say, you know what they are saying about you. And you'd go home in tears, maybe to a grandparent, and they would put their arms around you and say, now. You just be careful who you're listening to. You don't know. I think of that. I think of just how it's awesome to have grandparents, or that memory of how cool-spirited the grandparent is, and how tempting it is to lose a cool spirit. Another example is in this last week, 150 top intellectuals signed an open letter decrying this cancel culture that they see going on. Many leading liberal intellectuals have said that democratic inclusion we want can be achieved only if we speak out against this intolerant climate that has set in on all sides, and it goes on to give examples thereof. So it's a hard time to maintain a cool spirit. I think of just how important it is as we go through a time like this, just to remember what a small percentage of voices truly are being heard. And that in all times, there's always a large percentage of folks who we haven't really heard. It's said that even in the social media times that we are in, that those who are tuned in to Facebook or Twitter really probably represent no more than 25% of the population. And yet, there are large groups of folks who are already canceled or not heard in the debate, which makes me oftentimes just pause and just say, Lord, give me a cool spirit. Let me love to listen and to learn. It's easy to miss, depending on what news sources we listen to, that people have been on the streets in democratic action. People care. People want to know what their local budgets look like in their local municipalities. They're reading the contracts, the fine print that their police unions have with their local politicians. People are engaging and paying attention, perhaps at a level that is a little uncomfortable for those of us who've not had or not used to so many voices participating in the current debate. But that's the blessing of the times we live, the challenge and the blessing. So I just end with maybe I'll take the risk of thinking of another person in our congregation who is such a cool spirit, but kind of goes at it in a different way, and that's Dick Waters. I know Dick pretty well, so hope I can say this and elicit maybe a smile and not too much of a challenge. But Dick is a great gift to the community, not just our congregation, but Dick is one who I've learned he'll go to school board meetings because his life will speak to him through his relations, his connections, his knowledge, and his study about something that needs to be brought up before a school board. So he has that passion and that courage to go and stand and articulate a view. And we love that. We say we are thankful for an individual like Dick Waters to represent our better interests. I think of the times that we're living in and all of the voices and the comments sometimes where people might say, it seems like everybody's angry. I don't see it like that. I see it more like Dick is being joined by about 25 times the number of Dicks or individuals who are participating in the questioning and the discussion. And boy, if there was ever a time where you and I need to have a cool spirit, I think it's this time. I think it's good for us to be using Paul's counsel to that squabbling congregation in Corinthia in his letter to the 1 Corinthians, when he would say to them, make sure that you meditate upon the cross of Jesus Christ. Rely upon the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Be motivated by the love of God for you and for others. Learn to trade certainty for trust. Learn to trade understanding of all times and all situations for faith. If this truly is a world where God reigns, then let's trust and let's have that faith and maintain a cool spirit.